What's going on, guys? The Comics Kid 2099 here. Welcome to day 56 of the 365-day graphic novel review challenge. Today, I want to talk to you about a book called Roswell, Texas. This was a webcomic that ran from 2006 to 2008 on the website of Big Head Press, which is a company that I've never heard of before. And this book is by L. Neil Smith, Rex F. May, Scott Beiser, and Jen Zach. And the best way for me to describe this book is just to read the premise from the back of the book. So that's what I'm going to do. Remember the Alamo? In an alternate universe, Davy Crockett survived the 1836 siege at the Alamo, and Santa Anna did not. This changed history for all of North America. Texas remained an independent republic. Mexico fell under the rule of the French and did not regain her independence. So that small thing that you would think wouldn't have that big of an impact on history, Davy Crockett surviving the events of the Alamo, and then he goes and he joins forces with Sam Houston, and then they are able to win the war instead of lose it. You would think that that wouldn't have that much of an impact on the rest of the world, but it turns out it has a huge impact on the rest of the world, at least according to this book here. And so that happens in the 1800s, and then we jump forward to, it's a weird sequence of events. We start in the 1800s where we get to see a little bit of the Alamo, and then we jump forward to the 1960s where Charles Lindbergh Jr. is the president of Texas, and then he finds some secret documents, and then he calls his dad's best friend to explain these documents, and then he is telling the story of what happened in 1947 when an unidentified flying object crashed in Roswell, Texas. In real life, allegedly, there was an alien aircraft that landed in Roswell, New Mexico, which is part of the United States, but in this alternate history where Texas is a huge chunk of what we know as the United States, it landed in the Federated States of Texas. And so the basic plot of this story is these four Texan government agents, they are trying to figure out where the missing aliens are, where the missing spacecraft is, and then you've got all these other government parties from around the world. They're trying to get in on the action also. So California, it is its own separate country, is trying to get in on it. America's trying to get in on it. You've got the Nazis, they're trying to get in on it. And it's a very fun, very fast-paced story. It will constantly keep you guessing. It is very much a thing that I think history buffs are really going to love. If you are very much a fan of early 20th century and you know a lot about historical figures from the early 20th century, you are really going to love this. There is a lot of Easter eggs for people who really are into that sort of thing. A lot of it went over my head. Some of it is subtle, some of it is not so subtle. There's a reference to the song Alice's Diner, or Alice's Restaurant, sorry, which is it's not a very subtle one, but then there's some others where it's like, wait a minute, and I have to stop reading and I have to Google, and it's like, oh, okay, that's a reference to that one thing. So there are a couple of things about this book that I don't like. Number one, there are times when it stops the story and it tells a little side story about the history of this alternate universe. And personally, that didn't really work for me. I felt like it just slowed things down way too much. The one example I am thinking of is it tells a story about how Adolf Hitler in this timeline, he was not the leader of the Nazi Party. So he went to Texas to start a new life, and then he apprenticed under a famous Mexican artist whose name escapes me, and then he eventually married that guy's daughter, and then Hitler's daughter, she formed the Mount Rushmore equivalent of this world. She used dynamite and stuff, and she made a Mount Rushmore in Texas of the four Sams. It's like Sam Colt, Sam Houston, and Samuel Clemens, which is weird because I don't think Samuel Clemens, Mark Twain, I don't think he was actually from Texas, so that's a really weird thing anyway. But that whole little story about how Hitler came to Texas and his daughter forged the Mount Rushmore in Texas, that didn't really do anything for the story of these government agents seeking out these aliens who landed in Texas. It doesn't really serve the story in any way. It didn't really need to be in this book. It just kind of slows things down, and there's a little bit of that throughout this whole book. Not a whole lot. It's not a deal breaker, but just enough to kind of make you say, what is the point of this? It's just there to kind of flesh out the backstory of this world, but it doesn't really serve this story. And the other thing that I really didn't like was that at times you will have characters giving some of the clunkiest exposition that you will ever see anywhere, and they are talking to each other. Like there's this one part where Elliot Ness, who was a real-life FBI agent who was kind of working against Prohibition in the 1920s, we see Elliot Ness talking to this other guy, and they're both talking about Abraham Lincoln, and it's like, as you know, Abraham Lincoln gave land to Texas, and he was almost tried for treason. And it's like, you two both know about this. You don't need to be telling each other stuff that you already know about history. Like, that's just really stupid. It's really clunky. Of course, we, the audience, don't know this about Abraham Lincoln because this is an entirely fictional history that the authors are creating. So I get the feeling that they had this idea for some really cool stuff about the alternate history here that follows in the aftermath of the Alamo happening differently. And they wanted to give us all of these ideas that they had, but a lot of these ideas, like Abraham Lincoln giving land to Texas, did we really need to see that played out in a conversation between these two government agents? Sure, you might have people asking, well, why are the Federated States of Texas so much bigger than the actual territory of Texas in the 1800s? Well, you can probably put two and two together. You don't need to be actually told that Abraham Lincoln gave land to Texas after the Alamo. That doesn't really serve the story, and it's just really clunky and just really clumsy the way that it's delivered in that scene. But other than that, those are two pretty much nitpicks about this book. I really enjoyed this story. More or less, it is a very fast-paced story. It's very fun, very enjoyable. For the science fiction lover, for the history lover, it really merges those two things pretty seamlessly together, in my opinion. So I really enjoyed Roswell, Texas, and I think you guys might enjoy it as well. So that's all that I have to say about this book. I hope that you guys liked this video, and if you did, be sure to like, share, comment, and subscribe, and I will be back tomorrow with a different video. In the meantime, you guys have a great rest of the day. Catch you later.